Hi to Chase and May May. This is Granddad Mike, and I've missed so much being there with you in Houston and telling you stories in the bedroom at night. So I decided that I was going to tell you a story and send it to you on the internet. And this is a story about little Jimmy. And Jimmy was such a good little boy. He did all of his chores that his mom asked him to do, and he studied hard at school. And, all in all, he was just a terrific little guy. Well, except that whenever Jimmy went to bed, whenever he fell asleep, he kicked his covers off. And his mother would come in and say, "Jimmy, you've kicked your covers off of the bed and it's cold outside and you're going to catch another really bad cold if you don't do that." Well, Jimmy felt so bad because he couldn't really understand why when he fell asleep he kicked the covers off. So after Mom told him about it this time, he decided that he was going to be really, really good about keeping the covers on. So as he began to fall asleep, he held on to the covers with as much as he could. He just held on, and then gradually he went to sleep. And before he knew it, he kicked the covers off, and there he was laying in bed with the covers off. Then his mom came and said, "Jimmy, you've got your covers off. You gotta put your covers back on, because if you don't, you're gonna catch cold." And Jimmy said, "I'll sure try, Ma." Well, the next night Jimmy went to bed and he said, "I've got to really be careful not to kick the covers off." So he said, "I held on to the covers really tight, and that didn't work. So this time he spread his arms wide and he spread his legs wide and he opened his mouth and he said, 'Okay, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm not going to touch the covers and they're going to stay.' And he went to sleep. And as soon as he went to sleep, he kicked the covers off again. The next morning, his mother came in and said, "Jimmy, you kicked the covers off again, and you can't do that anymore, because I have to say to you that if you kick the covers off, the belly button monster is going to come and steal your belly button." Well, Jimmy said, "No, there's no such thing as a belly button monster." And he went to bed that night, but he got to thinking about it, and he decided that he would gonna lay over on his tummy so he wouldn't kick the covers off. And he went to sleep, and whoosh, he kicked the covers off in his sleep. Well, the belly button monster was flying around the neighborhood looking for another belly button. He had a big sack of belly buttons, and he landed in Jimmy's bedroom. And he looked down, because not only had Jimmy kicked the covers off, but he rolled over, and he had a perfect belly button. And the belly button monster reached over really carefully, and he picked up the belly button. Oh, it was perfect. And he put it in his belly button bag, and he flew away. The next morning, Jimmy woke up, and he didn't think about anything. He saw that the covers were off. He said, "I'm in trouble now." And the first thing he did was he went downstairs with these jammies on, and he sat at the breakfast table and he poured a great big glass of milk, and he drank down the milk, and the milk poured out of his belly onto the floor. And he looked down, and it was all over the floor, and he couldn't keep anything inside his tummy. Well, then he went up to the bathroom and got into the bathtub, and he poured the water into the tub, and as the water filled up, the water filled up Jimmy's tummy as well, because there was a hole there, and he had to push the water out of his tummy in order to get it out. Well, he didn't know really what to do, and that night he went to bed, and he said, "I don't know where you are, belly button monster, but I want my belly button back." Well, the belly button monster heard that, and he flew back down into Jimmy's bedroom, and he said, "You're an awfully rude little boy yelling at me like that." And Jimmy said, "I don't care. I want my belly button back." And the belly button monster said, "Well, I don't know." He looked in his sack and he says, "That your belly button is one of the best belly buttons I've got in my sack." Jimmy says, "I don't care. I want my belly button back." Well, the belly button monster said, "If you're gonna be that way, I guess I'll give it back to you." So he reached down into the bag and he pulled out Jimmy's belly button, and he looked at it and said, "Oh, that's a good looking belly button." But never mind. He waved it around in front of Jimmy, and before he got too close, the belly button flew out of his hand right onto Jimmy's ear. Jimmy said, Don't put my belly button on my ear. That's not where it belongs. You gotta put it on my belly." Well, the belly button monster said, "You're making an awful lot of noise for a little boy." "All right." So he reached over and he grabbed the belly button. Then he took it around again, and he got closer to Jimmy, and it appeared on Jimmy's nose. Jimmy said, "That's not where my belly button goes." The belly button monster said, "I don't know. It looks pretty cool up there on your nose because it's such a neat little belly button." Jimmy said, "I want my belly button where it belongs." Well, the belly button monster said, "All right." And he took it off his nose, and he got really, really careful and got closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, and it went right to Jimmy's belly, right on his belly button. Finally, the belly button monster looked at Jimmy and he said, "I hope you're happy now. I don't want to hear anything more from you." And the belly button monster flew out the window. Well, Jimmy looked at his belly button and he was so happy it was back where it was. And you know, ever since that happened, Jimmy never, ever kicked the covers off of his bed again. And you guys down there in Houston, that's my story for you of the belly button monster. Love from Granddad Mike and Grandma Janet.